Pretoria.
To be included as a motive force of the National Democratic Revolution. And if you look at the documents of the ANC, what is, I'll call, begrudgingly called the black capitalist class is a motive force of the National Democratic Revolution. Because we worked with people like Unongosi to prepare for that conference, which was a watershed moment. So we respect, and it is through that office of the Treasurer General, specifically through the office of the Secretary General and the Presidency, that we as business tended to interact with the ANC. And when that office was occupied by Uncle Mendi, we knew that therein sat a man of unparalleled gravitas, unparalleled honor and stature, who wanted nothing but the best for that office. And I must underline here, it says nothing about people before him or his successors. But talking about him, he definitely brought those attributes to that office, for which we in the Black Business Council respect and honor him fundamentally and very dearly. In the book, The Red Shirt of the Earth, Frantz Fanon reminds us that each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it in relative opacity. Nonkosi belongs to that generation of leaders whose historic mission was fulfilled with unparalleled distinction. And we are poorer, very poor, by their departing one by one, batch by batch. I don't know what is a group of lions, but his departure in the year of the centenary of Mama Albertina Sisulu and Utata Madiba is by no coincidence, because he believed he belongs to that generation, young as he was in relative terms. So uhambe kahle nonkosi usikhonzele kumaqhawe namaqhawekazi. When Martin Kingston, the son-in-law, told me how Nonkosi revered me, I said the feeling was mutual. In actual fact, I did not only revere him, I loved him. I loved Nonkosi for all the attributes that are contained in his obituary. Last but not least, to the family, this man had his fair shillings in life. At 90, he's played his part, he's lived. I'm sure if he was asked if he wanted to live longer, he would have possibly answered the question in the negative. Because there are people that he loved dearly who have departed, that I'm sure he looked forward to rejoining with them. So I urge the family to release him, knowing that he is now in a better place. Let him go. Thank you so much. Nonkosi uhambe kahle.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sandile Zungu. Comrade Sandile Zungu will be followed by Ambassador Ger Grobel. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in the audience. He's sitting up here. Thank you very much. Ambassador, come and make your obituary.
Program Director, Minister Sisulu, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests and colleagues, but most of all, the family of Uncle Mendi. I was humbled and honored by the request by Uncle Mendi's family, his dear family, to speak and to say a few words today. I had the great privilege and pleasure of serving as the Deputy High Commissioner with Uncle Mendi over a period of 3 years. And his extraordinary leadership, his guidance, his mentorship will always remain with me. I served with him from May 1994, just after the elections, until the beginning of 1997. In fact, I assumed duty as the Deputy High Commissioner late in 1993, a mere few months prior to the exciting elections and our country becoming a democracy, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. A goal for which Uncle Mendi, as I got to know him, and we talked about this so many times, he fought for with a profound commitment and with a great personal sacrifice, he and many others. I, as well as the other staff members of the then embassy, and also here at head office, to this day cherish very fond memories and recollections of Uncle Mendi's significant contributions, and more specifically at that time, his sterling and very decisive leadership in the South African Embassy, which later, of course, became the South African High Commission when we joined the Commonwealth. I shall never forget Uncle Mendi's joy and exuberance on 27 April 1994, and I happened to be the Chief Electoral Officer of the elections in South Africa House that day, elected by all the political parties that participated in the elections. But I'll never forget Uncle Mendi walking into South Africa House with Archbishop Trevor Huddleston. And he was beaming. And they cast their votes together with hundreds, and in fact thousands of South Africans who voted there. There was a wonderful mood, there was excitement amongst so many South Africans who voted that day, the majority of whom for the first time in their lives. When Uncle Mendi and Trevor Huddleston cast their votes, they promptly spontaneously held a press conference in South Africa House. I think a symbolically very significant event, much to the disgust of the then ambassador, who was a National Party politician, and I think for today shall remain nameless. I have equally fond memories of the very first time, because Uncle Mendi had not been inside South Africa House over all the years that he was the chief representative of the ANC in London, in the UK. The first day that I escorted him into South Africa House to show him the building from the inside, he knew it very well from the outside, and I introduced him to the staff, who were obviously somewhat apprehensive, some of them. And also, after that, I took him to Highveld, the residence of the ambassador or the head of mission. So we walked in his typical style, being very, his humility. He walked in and he said, he says, this lounge is about twice the size of my apartment I have in Camden Town. I'm going to get lost in this place. I recall that so well. I also wish to add that Uncle Mendi and I actually had started a dialogue several weeks before, several months before, after I got there. And the then ambassador didn't want us to meet in the embassy or in South Africa House. So we had all our meetings in the crypt next door in St. Martin's in the field. That's where we sat. And we talked about the transition of South Africa House in the wake of the elections in April that year. And I can just say, I mentioned apprehension on part of some of the staff, but Uncle Mendi walked in there the first day when he took up his post. And that the transition, it was generally, I think, the case in Durko and the old DFA in Durko, but the transition took place in a remarkable, constructive and a smooth manner. But this was due to Uncle Mendi's approach, his humility, his kindness, his unassuming, down-to-earth manner, and his compassionate approach immediately put any fears or any concerns there were to rest. It was a wonderful experience to witness that. And all of us, in a very short period, I had known him, of course, a few months by then, had developed a deep-seated respect and admiration for Uncle Mendi, for his extraordinary, as I mentioned, professionalism and his impeccable integrity. And he was always caring about the staff, about the junior staff. Are they well? Are the families well? It was that side of Uncle Mendi which made him, that humility, that caring, that sharing, which made him such a remarkable head of mission to work with. It was at the time, of course, an incredible, exciting time, as South Africa was being welcomed back into the UK. In fact, South Africa was welcomed back into the international community at the time. And it was also very evident to me after my arrival in London that Uncle Mendi had in fact already really operated as South Africa's ambassador in London over a long period, despite the existence of the official embassy in South Africa, as he was the chief representative of the ANC in the UK. In fact, Uncle Mendi was held in very high regard by the British ruling establishment, by the diplomatic corps, by the private sector, the media, the public, etc. there was nothing but respect for Uncle Mendi. He was invited to all corners of the UK in the wake of the elections, and literally from John O'Groats to Land's End. And I had the good fortune, privilege of travelling and accompanying Uncle Mendi at the time, and also representing him on many occasions, because there were so many invitations that it was impossible to follow all these. Uncle Mendi moved into the High Commission and very quickly reorganized, refocused the embassy, working non-stop. He worked non-stop, day and night. Uncle Mendi was always busy, ceaselessly and selflessly, and in a focused manner, engaging government, parliament, the diplomatic corps, in particular the Africa ambassadors and non-aligned ambassadors. We had endless meetings in the private sector on investment in trade in the city. Uncle Mendi negotiated South Africa's return to the Commonwealth after years of exclusion, and this in fact happened on the 1st of June 1994. He reached out to civil society and promoted the people-to-people interaction between the people of South Africa and the UK. And one of the things that Uncle Mendi did, he said to me, Gert, he said, we must open up South Africa House. We must open it up to the British people. We must open it up to the South Africans. It's their home. It's their place. He always said to me, this place was like a fort. It was a dark place, and we should open up. And that was, so there were regular, ongoing meetings, economic events, cultural events in South Africa House, which were focused and aimed at promoting South Africa's interest. I recall Uncle Mendi also beaming at events we held in South Africa House when Mama Africa, the late Miriam Makeba, the late Brenda Fassie, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, and a particular event, in fact they played there more than once, was Joe Mokgotsi and the Manhattan Brothers. He was so happy to have them in South Africa House and to spread South Africa's message and our culture. Uncle Mendi would probably have described the visit by Madiba to the UK in July 1996 as the highlight of his stint in the UK. A visit whose preparations he personally engaged with on an ongoing basis for months to make the outcomes effective. It was generally agreed then, and I'm sure now, that that visit by Madiba, in which Uncle Mendi played such an important role, was a one-off. London and the UK will never see a state visit like that ever again. Madiba's triumphal sweep through London at times, to me, resembled a kind of a coronation of a queen or a king in the city. There was unbelievable excitement, and it made all of us incredibly happy and proud. From Buckingham Palace to the festively decorated streets of Brixton, Madiba, accompanied by Uncle Mendi, were assiduously courted by all. Lionized in Parliament, where Madiba addressed a joint sitting of Parliament in Westminster Hall, which is a very rare occurrence. They were pursued by business leaders and worshipped, and Madiba was worshipped as a hero by the British public. And an interesting thing that it's not often written about or talked about, that Madiba received 9 honorary doctorates from 9 different universities, including Cambridge and Oxford, in one fell swoop, in one go. And this all happened in the garden of Buckingham Palace. Now, a thing like that will never, ever happen again. In fact, another amusing, and I know that Madiba and Uncle Mendi were highly amused. The last night of the visit, there was a concert in the Royal Albert Hall, and Uncle Mendi and Madiba got the Queen to do the Madiba shuffle, desperately clutching her little handbag, but doing the shuffle, with the result that the media reported the next morning the Queen, quote, the Queen's first time to boogie in public. In conclusion, I can go on and on about all the achievements and the things we did under Uncle Mendi's guidance, but the time does not permit. Suffice to say that South Africa's relations with the UK were placed on a different, totally higher and a constructive plane as a result of his acceptance, as a result of all the hard work. It is therefore, having had the good fortune to have worked with Uncle Mendi so closely in London in those years, highly appropriate that we honour and celebrate the illustrious career and life of this gentle giant of South Africa's liberation struggle. I also wish to pay, from my experience in London, special tribute to the late Mantu Tabalala Msimang for her love, for her ongoing and consistent support of Uncle Mendi in London. Although it was not always possible for her to be in London due to her own official tasks and commitments in South Africa, which he fulfilled with distinction. And I could perhaps just lastly say, Uncle Mendi, it wasn't all work. There was some play too. He and I, on Saturdays or Sundays, had fiercely contested tennis matches at Highveld. And although Uncle Mendi was not as agile as I was much younger, he was a very shrewd lobber of the ball, over your head. And I always had my hands full with his tactical approach to the game. Lastly, I wish to express my heartfelt condolences and sympathy to Uncle Mendi's family. Our thoughts and prayers are with you in this very difficult time of grief, of mourning, and a profound sense of loss. I can just say, Uncle Mendi, you will be missed, and may your soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Haula. We have heard how much Uncle Mendi loved music, and I've been reminded that he's being quiet with a lot of speeches. We will now allow for the band to give us one piece in order to usher the real owner of this podium. I saw her arriving here. She'll be taking over Ambassador Nozipo January Badir. Thank you very much. The band, thank you.
thank you very much to the band for the play. And can I say, Minister, distinguished guests, members of the family, and all protocols observed, can I start by really expressing my sincere apologies for coming late. I had a personal crisis that I couldn't avoid dealing with. And so, but I'm here now. And we should continue to celebrate really Uncle Mendi's life, because his life was about his graciousness and his service to the country, and we need to celebrate that, especially at this time. So I'm very happy to be here, and I will continue with the program as I've been advised. But I think we need another song, don't you think? Yes. Can we just have another hymn to kind of raise the celebration? So. Thank you. Milani, it's with a sore heart that we all stand here with the rest of your family and in tribute to your great father. And thank you for the honor to ask to be this program for today, program manager for today. So I've gotten to a stage now where Ambassador Chlobra has just extolled Uncle Mendi's virtues as ambassador in London. And I thought I would take advantage of being here this afternoon and also share a short tribute from the Association of Former Ambassadors, High Commissioners, and Chief Representatives, who are now currently in the process of setting up this association. As ASAFA, we wish to convey our deepest condolences to the children, the grandchildren, the families, and the friends and comrades of High Commissioner Msimang. It is with deep sadness that we receive the news of his passing. As 2018 comes to a close, and a year also when the ANC, when DIRCO, and the country lost some of its most trusted, most selfless, and most respected leaders, our stalwarts, senior diplomats, as well as comrades of the liberation struggle. Uncle Mendi dedicated his life to the ANC with a steadfastness and a resolve that many of us who were touched by his quiet and dignified manner will remember with fondness and a sense of privilege for having known and worked with him. And during his years in exile as chief representative of the ANC, Uncle Mendi led his staff, his compatriots, and friends of the movement with skill and dignity. He was always open, he was always inclusive and respectful in his leadership style, yet he was firm and decisive in the way he exercised his authority. He was willing to guide and mentor his colleagues in all the varied responsibilities to which he had been assigned, both abroad and on his return to the country. He was a sterling High Commissioner in London and modeled the values of integrity and unwavering commitment and dedication, and won the heart of many for whom the struggle for freedom in South Africa had become a personal and professional mission. Uncle Mendi will be sorely missed by all his comrades and colleagues, and mostly his immediate and extended families, for whom he was a brilliant father and also a devoted husband. We will mourn his loss and celebrate his life with you, and we wish them strength in their sorrow and your sense of loss, and thank you very much for sharing his life with the movement and everyone else. May his soul rest in perfect and eternal peace. I will now ask Ambassador Rankwe to come up and say a few words about Uncle Mendi in tribute to his work and his life.
Program Director, the Msimang family, our Minister, Lindy Wesisulu, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am privileged today to be standing here to say farewell to Bud Mendi.
Very good afternoon. If you're just tuning in, you're watching the SABC News channel, and this is SA Today. We've just come out of the memorial service, which is currently underway for the late Ambassador Msimang, who passed away this month.
All right, yes indeed, and I suppose we'll take you back there for more on what is happening at that memorial service. My name is SABC. Thank you so much for coming through. Let us now take a look at the headlines for this hour.
Condolences have been pouring in for the late Dr. Alex Boraine, who died in Cape Town this morning.